Day 24. Let's start with the Bible verses today. It's 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 6 through 7. And it says, "This is why I reminded you to fan into flames the spiritual gift God gave you when I laid my hands on you. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline." And that's Paul writing to Timothy amidst a lot of trials in Paul's life, and he's encouraging Timothy as he's leading people in churches. And if I were to summarize today's video, I want to talk about today's actions and tomorrow's results. Because what I see all throughout Paul's writing and his encouragements is he was so forward focused and connected to his purpose in the future and the hope that all of what God was to bring in their human lives, and then far beyond that, and just the hope of eternal life that they were spreading. And when you're so connected to your purpose and you're so connected to that hope of the future, you're going to be so joyful about tomorrow's results that you're absolutely okay with the suffering that today might bring. And in Paul's case, again, he's in prison and he's physically suffering. He's probably hungry and thirsty and just absolutely struggling beyond what a lot of us can imagine. But again, he's so focused on the hope of tomorrow. So when I read those verses, especially in verse 7 there, God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. And of course, knowing me, I'm going to lock in on that self-discipline note there. But when I think about those verses and I talk about today's actions and tomorrow's results, it's so interesting with self-discipline, because what it does in our life is it forces us to connect today's actions, the inputs that we're really putting into today, whether that's going to the gym or eating healthy or grinding at work, whatever we're doing. That's not fun all the time. And in fact, it can be uncomfortable and can leave you just struggling sometimes to do those difficult things. But again, self-discipline requires you to connect today's actions with tomorrow's results. And I know sometimes I probably sound like a broken record when I talk about delayed gratification versus the ease of immediate gratification in this world. But I think that's something that humans really struggle with now, is because we can be comfortable at all times. This world, especially in the US, it's enabled us to live in, very comfortable conditions at all times, to have very comfortable distractions at all times. And you can actually, now more than ever in the past, kind of get by in life and be somewhat sustainable even if you're not doing a lot of action. You can kind of still hold a job and still, be comfortable and have a home and all these things, but even if you're distracted 90% of the time, whereas in the past, you had to go hunt your food, and I won't get into all of that, but there was a lot in the past that you had to do to be present to even survive. So we live in a world of distraction, in a world of immediate gratification that can absolutely have negative long-term effects in our lives. So to get into the quote today related to this topic, it says, "Success is created through small daily disciplines that stack up over time, that lead to great achievements. But failure, on the other hand, is just as easy to slip into. It's nothing more than the inevitable outcome of a few small acts of daily neglect performed over time that can lead to basically the point of no return." And wow, I feel that, because whether that's our finances or whether that's what we're putting into our bodies, whatever the decision is, failure can be very easy to slip into. I don't think anyone wakes up just one random day and says like, "Oh, I'm going to put my body in such an unhealthy point to where it's at the point of no return," or "I'm going to put my finances in a situation that's, at some point of no return." No, I don't think it's a daily, I don't think it's a one day you wake up and all of it just happens. I think it's very small decisions and habits that we fall into day after day that then over time, when you extrapolate that out over months and years, you kind of become blind to what those daily habits you even fell into are because you're just so used to them. But they've stacked up over time, and it's like a snowball that's rolling downhill. You eventually wake up years later and you think, wow, how did I get here? I'm at the point of no return. And again, in this world, when we don't allow ourselves, like I talked about yesterday, we don't allow ourselves to just sink into boredom and introspection, but instead we just move to distraction. When you spend all day just scrolling or distracted, you're not going to be in a point to really look yourself in the mirror and say, like, what do I need to do better? Like, what daily habits do I need to change? Even if they're just small, they seem so small at first. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to change these few things I'm doing today that's going to lead me to that point of no return, that failure. But instead, I'm going to do these 2 or 3 things that over time, I know are going to lead to great achievements, that delayed gratification. And the more I think about this stuff, like, that's what our faith is, and that's what our hope and salvation is. And like, that's what Paul's writing about. I think when he talks so much about self-discipline and self-control, it's like today's actions of just loving people and listening to God and being who God created us to be, because we can tune that stuff out like we do oftentimes. And I've been a victim of that, where it's like it's always there for us to reap what we sow, but often we just tune it out, and days and weeks and years will go by and you're like, wow, how am I so off track? But if we just, even though we know it's going to be uncomfortable at times, if we just step into that today's action, tomorrow's results mentality with our faith, and we invest in reading the Bible, we invest in others, we invest in doing the difficult things that we know are best for our soul and our spirit, those habits over time are going to lead to something that's beautiful. So Paul's talking about this stuff, but then you hear it so much in the secular world too, just with people that go to the gym or people that invest in their business or in their health. Like, the more I read into this stuff, the more it's all related. So today's actions, invest in those habits daily that are going to lead to tomorrow's results. Don't live of the world. Don't live in the convenience and the comfort. Like, go out and just make yourself uncomfortable this week, this month. The hardest part is getting started with any new habit. But if you can survive a few weeks of just making yourself uncomfortable and rewiring your brain in that sense, you're going to be better for it. You're going to achieve things that you never, ever thought you could. And I know that's cliche, but it's true. Delayed gratification. Invest in today's actions to create tomorrow's results. That's day 24.